everybody. Thank you so much, first of all, Henry, and certainly to Mike and to Sylvia for letting me have the time today to share with you the transformation experience that we've had at Hewlett Packard and Hewlett Packard Enterprise. My name is Ann Anderson, and as Henry graciously said, I do lead our global channel partner enablement. We have 70% of our business, our revenue, comes through our channel partners, so they're a very important audience, and thus our portal transformation journey that we've been on the last couple of years is a really, really important one for us. So glad to share the story with you today. But before I go into that story, I want to tell you another favorite story of mine, which actually is here in London. And London is like my absolute favorite city. But when I was here a couple of years back, I was here for the Boxing Day sale at Harrods. And I don't know how many of you have been to it before, but let me just say, being there before the doors open, all the people packing in to get in, and then the doors open, and there's security people there, but I mean, it is a floodgate of people just pouring in, and then it's who can get their hands on the best sale items. Those are my Ferragamos. No, they're mine. And like the back and forth ensues. And it's awesome. It actually, if you come to the States, I'm from Texas. I'm based in Houston. And if you go to a Walmart on the weekends, it's a very similar experience, except instead of Ferragamos, it's like fighting over a fryer for your turkey and things like that. But nonetheless, it was a great trip to Harrods. And while I was there at this sale, I got this pair of gloves. And they're my absolute favorite pair of gloves. And these gloves are actually very relevant for our story we're going to talk about today. So I'll tell you more about the gloves, but I wanted to set the stage and tell you why. Another reason why I love London so much is the great shopping. So let me tell you just a little bit then about the transformation that we've been on and where we started, and give you some context there. And I'll be very transparent. In the beginning, it was pretty bad. It was really, really not a good thing. It was what we'd say big time ugly as far as the environment that we had for our channel partners. When you think about channel partners as a company that does so much business through them, it's all about how easy have you made it for them to do the key transactions with us, like get pricing or register a deal or see their compensation, things like that. You want to make that really easy and intuitive. And when we started this transformation back in 2013, we were in a really bad place. So first of all, we have a huge audience that we're supporting. 250,000 partners, a little over 600,000 individuals. And we had 7 different partner portals when we started. They were all very old, legacy infrastructure. Most of them we hadn't invested in like 10 years. And it was even worse, we had over 2,000 people publishing content to the portal, but with no real content strategy. So it was a free-for-all. I mean, if you can imagine link farm after link farm after link farm. And I joined the team right about this time, and I remember saying to the team, well, now how on earth is a person supposed to find where they need to get key information to do these certain tasks? Don't worry, Ann, we've got it covered. Good news. We have a 56-page guide that will walk them through very carefully and clearly where to find the content. Oh, well, that's good. Big relief for me there. So it started out not in a great place. And what that meant was that our partners were very angry with us, first of all, because, hey, we're here to sell your stuff, and you're sure not making it very easy on us. And we were wasting their time significantly as well. And from a satisfaction standpoint, we certainly weren't doing anything to help grow their business. And at the end of the day, we and they are all there to make money, and we were not helping them in any form or fashion. As I went through a number of different surveys and sources of feedback that we'd gotten about those existing portals, this was one of the quotes that really stood out, that finding information on your website is like finding a needle in a haystack of needles. Another favorite was one that someone said, I really need a PhD in HP to even understand how to do business with you. I literally stood with a partner face-to-face at one of our events and had him tell me that he had a dedicated resource whose sole job was to onboard new employees into all of these partner portals, getting all the websites, the links set up, getting their spreadsheet created so they could track all the different logins they had to have. He said it's such a waste of resources and time. And if all of that wasn't enough, we knew going into it doing a big change was going to be difficult because the culture inside HP at the time was not very experience-oriented, and some of you may be facing that as well. And this piece of research was really helpful to get that senior management buy-in that, okay, we got to do things differently now. And this research, basically looking at our competitors and where they were with their partner portals at the time, all our competitors are nicely there in the center. And then HP is that sad little half circle that's falling off the grid because it's so bad. So that was pretty compelling as far as where we stood. It was also really discouraging. I remember there was a CRN article that had just come out during our partner conference that year, and it ranked us 10 out of the bottom 10 out of 10 vendors for channel partners to do business with. And that's when our CEO, Meg Whitman, stepped up and said, we are going to invest in transforming our partner ecosystem as a whole, of which the partner portal was a very big part of it. But this research was very helpful in driving that perspective. So this was our moment. It was time to do things differently, and I mean differently. We decided that, hey, if this is our shot, 10 plus years, and we were a company that's been in existence for 50 plus years, a lot of organic growth, this was our shot to ditch all the old systems and build something really good. Because we didn't want to just get back on the grid, we wanted to lead the grid. That was what was so big and bold about it. But let's be honest, these websites, they're enabling 70% of our business. You screw it up, we're out of jobs. So it was big and bold to say, you know what, we're going to go to one portal, and we're going to run the business there, and it's going to work, even though we have diverse needs. We're going to build it on a platform that's going to give us the flexibility to tee up the information we need to the right people, and we're going to get the flexibility and scalability to roll it out to the breadth of our audiences that we had to support. And I do mean breadth when I say the size of the audiences that we had. As I mentioned, 250,000 partners, but we're in 174 countries in 25 languages, and I know many of you deal with languages as well. There are a lot of complexities that come along with this many different countries where you're doing business. But one of the objectives with the portal that we had was not just a portal with information in it. One of the biggest value adds was being a single entry point to access all the tools that they needed to do business with us. And a lot of those tools, so Salesforce, we have Oracle tools, we have Zyme, we have a number of different industry standards. At that point, all of those had to be accessed with separate logins. This was going to be our chance to create a single entry point and have all of those tools, 100 plus of them, integrated into one destination with one login. And we also wanted to make sure that the data replication across the ecosystem was current, was live. We didn't want it to be something where data would refresh every 24 hours, because if the portal is stale with its information, they're not going to use it. It has to be just as current as the tools themselves. So that was a very big priority for us, as was having the mobile capability that came with responsive. So what were we going to do? What platform could we go with? We actually evaluated a number of different platforms, and we went with LifeRay for a couple of different key reasons. We liked the flexibility, the fact that a lot of what we needed was available out of the box. We liked the scalability, that it could grow with the breadth that we needed to cover. We also really liked that because we knew we wanted to continue to grow our channel base, that LifeRay didn't hamstring us with license fees. That was a big one. And I actually consult with a lot of HPE's customers on their portals. And the thing I see people screw up the most often on, and they get the most limited in what they're able to do with their portals, is picking a vendor that's going to have associated fees for incremental users. They just can't support, as their business grows, the added cost, because those fees go up, and once you're bought in, you have a lot less negotiating power because you know what it's going to take to get out of it. So we liked a lot the openness that LifeRay brought along with the greatness of the application. And then we had to, so it's one thing to have the application. That's great. But you've all probably had similar experiences where people tee up, well, we can just do a lift and shift. Great, call it a day. Got 7 portals, move all that content in, and we'll be on our way. No, this was our chance to really rethink the approach as a whole. We knew if we had one portal, the only way that would work is if we could be flexible enough to tee up for each user, each individual, what's the experience you want and should have? What do I mean by want and should? Well, for us, you've got limitations around who's able to see what information. Only a CEO or a senior executive should be allowed to see, compensation information for the company, for example. So we have a heavy permissionings focus within the site, as well as what is relevant for you. So it was very important to us that we got a tool that would allow us to do the permissioning, but also to deliver really relevant experiences for our users. We also internally as a company made a big shift from, hey, it's not just about having X many thousand users, that's great. It was much more about the quality of the experience, so we focused much more on overall satisfaction, and I'll share a little bit more about the results that we've seen. And so this was our initial deployment of our partner portal. And this was the HPE partner portal, and it really anchored around two key big use cases. We have a lot of new people coming in on a regular basis at our partners. They have new employees, people in new job roles. And those new folks, they don't know all our acronyms. They don't know all our jargon. They just need to come in. They have a specific task to do. And we need to make it intuitive for them to do that. So we did a lot of work on the navigation structure to be intuitive, very task-oriented, no acronyms. You would be amazed at how much work the no acronyms thing took internally. Like, it was an act of Congress, but or I guess Parliament, I would say here, an act of Parliament to get that through. But we did it, and it's been much, much more effective. But our second group are the super users. These are the people that they are interacting with us, whether like it's a marketing admin coming into the MDF, the market development tools information, or it's a sales rep coming in to use the quoting tools or the configuration tools. Super users are in there almost every day. We wanted to make it really easy for them, and that's where the customizable homepage dashboard comes into play there in the center. They're able to pick and choose of those 100+ different tools, which are the ones that are most relevant for me. And this was our starting point, working with Liferay and creating these widgets and tiles that the partners could move around and put exactly on their homepage what they wanted. I'll share a little bit more with you later, but we've been evolving those tiles to now enrich them with data as well so that it's even more actionable and customizable for the users. But this was our starting point. And I have to tell you, the dashboard was something that was a great example of listening to the partners about what their needs were in general. They never asked us for the dashboard, but in hearing what they said, we sort of said, well, how can we get so how would be the best way to represent that? And we came up with this dashboard concept, and it's been very, very well received, and it was the thing right when we launched that, no question, was the most popular feature of the site. So let's talk a little bit about, because can I get a feel, like, do we have, how many folks, because I didn't mention, we're on 6.1, Liferay 6.1, and we're actually, I'll talk to you a little bit more in a second about DXP upgrade. Can I get a show of hands in here if you have a Liferay solution today? How many of you are on 6.1 or 6.2? Okay. And then how many of you, if you have a solution, are on DXP? Okay, great. That's very helpful context. So then a lot of you are in a very similar boat, both with the implementations you have, but also the path to DXP, and we'll chat about that in a second. But as far as how we got the portal out the door, there were a couple of key things that were, for us at least, really important, and I hope maybe some of these will be relevant for you as well. When we first started the code development back in the middle of 2013, we wanted to make sure from a senior leadership standpoint, they were making a really big investment in doing this new portal. And they were, let's be honest, a bit apprehensive about don't break the business as we go through this. So we started out by making really clear, here's the timeline, because I don't know your company, but at mine, they sort of have ADD when it comes to the ability to stay focused on some of these big priorities long enough to execute them. They'll bounce on to the next one. And so we wanted to make sure we held their attention long enough to fully deliver. So the first thing was, hey, here are the deadlines and the milestones. Are you good with this? Great. Glad you are. The second was, how do we keep their attention and their focus on, and their backing, quite frankly, financially, on what we're working on? Because when you're developing code, there's not a lot of stuff to go show a senior executive and be like, yay, look at what we've done, it's more code development, woo! They don't really resonate with that. So what we did was very, very early on, we brought in some of our partner users of the current portals in first to do a card sort on the navigation structure. Then about 2 months later, we brought in about 600 partners into the initial shell of the website to give us feedback. and we did a survey structure there. And then about 2 months later, we brought them in for the full-blown beta test to really fully interact with the site and also give us feedback on performance. Those 3 interactions that were spread out throughout the development cycle were really important for us because we could go and present to those executives, hey, not in our words, but theirs. This is right on track with what they need. They're liking the direction we're headed. And sort of underlying it also reinforced, and we're doing this. We've committed, so we need to keep going. And that was very, very helpful. And it was also really encouraging and motivating for the teams who were flat out working their tails off to get to hear the feedback that it was really well received. So then we actually were supposed to launch, so we started in July, we were supposed to launch in May. And we got to this moment where we were evaluating the experience as a whole, we got the final set of performance test data. And when we were looking at it, we realized it's not actually faster than the current portals. It's actually a little bit slower. And here we'd done all this work to deliver this great new portal experience, but the performance data just wasn't there. And we were really nervous about, okay, our internal executives, we've had these milestones, they're really expecting this launch in May, as are our partners. But if we're really committed to a great experience, we shouldn't launch this. And that was such a defining moment when I think about the cultural change that happened internally. We made the recommendation to hold the launch, and to my great delight, all the way up the chain, they backed it. And it was 100% the right call. It only took about 3 weeks to get the performance in line. And when we launched, it was about it was twice as fast, I should say, as the legacy portals. And when I think about how well received and how positive the response was when we launched, and how fast the adoption went, and how easily we could have crippled that by launching something that all they would have focused on is, it's slow. Yeah, it's great, but it's slow. And so that was a really, really important piece to stay true to the experience and hold out on those priorities, including things like performance speed. So consistent messaging, just so that people don't lose focus throughout the duration of the project. Common messaging so that they, oh yes, again, I remember that. It may feel like overkill on your end, or certainly did on our end at times, but it kept it in people's mind, and it was also consistent for them. And then finally, so from when we started code development to when we launched was 11 months. And we think about, at least from my end, knowing how much complexity we had to deal with, how much we were able to leverage out of Liferay, out of the box, and then working with several partners, we're able to quickly develop that into a working, stable platform, and to launch it only 11 months was just astounding. And then from there, we were able to deploy it to all 174 countries, 100% of our channel partner in another 11 months. Which was really, really great, because the speed with which it was moving meant it almost became unstoppable, which was exactly what we wanted. And so now, for the first time in company history, we have all of our channel partners in one place, on one portal. And that's become a true competitive advantage for us. Because now if we have information, tools, actions we want our partners to take, I can have it deployed to our entire channel population in 5 minutes, if that. Which is just really excellent. So it's been a huge advantage for us. So let's talk a little bit about the results, right? Because we're all in business, and at the end of the day, it usually comes back down to the numbers. So what were the results that we saw? Before I show you that or talk to that, I should mention the approach we took was one not just of results, but of value realization. And what I mean by that is we took it in stages. So what are the first actions that we want to see in the first 3 months? And that's what we've got here. So first of all, do we see better adoption, people logging in, than the legacy portals? And we did across the board with all of our partner audiences. But just because they've logged in doesn't mean high fives all around and call it a day and we're done. How often are they coming back? Are they reusing it more than they were using the legacy portal? And the answer was yes, absolutely. We had 84% were actually using the site multiple times a day. Great. They're coming in once, they're coming back over and over again. Check that first box, column 1 done. But now they're in the site, are we seeing the behavior changes that we really wanted? Because when you build these portals, the idea is to drive up self-serve, have them do things you want them to do as a company that will make them more successful and us more successful. So the next piece we looked at is, hey, the reason we built this, we want these partners to get in and to be able to sell faster, which means they need to know about all the tools we have available to support them and the content, and to be using them. So the next thing we looked at is the traffic to those tools. Did we see an improvement? And the answer is absolutely. We saw, first of all, improvement in the amount of traffic, but we also saw a pivot to heavy use with that homepage dashboard, which has been great because then when you add data and you add additional intelligence into that homepage, you know you're going after your target audience. And you can see our SAT scores are there along the bottom. So we use a net SAT calculation, and we have a two-tier channel model, our tier 1 distributors and then our tier 2 resellers. And you can see the trajectory since we launched this initiative has been a very positive one that we've seen. And then finally, so if you've got the behavior change within the portal, how does that actually then finally result in real business outcomes? And that's where we then looked across the ecosystem, all those tools that we've enabled our partners with, do we actually see the money show up, the revenue to come with it? So first and foremost, we saw that frequent users of the portal, taking advantage of all the tools and information we've given them now, we're seeing a 17x increase in the value of the opportunities that were being won. And that their win rate was 82% compared to 33% of those not using them. And the deal sizes were also significantly larger. So they're winning more often, they're winning bigger deals when they are using the ecosystem more effectively, which was great. That's great news. And then the other big piece was, like I mentioned, self-serve. Every time these folks can't find the content they are looking for, they get on with our support reps, whether it's through chat or email ticket or they call in, which costs us a lot more money, of course, than self-serving online. We saw a huge decline. It was a 85% reduction in the visits that required support assistance. And so we've been able to pull the dollars that we were spending on heavy support requirements and reinvest them into enhancing and growing the portal continuously, which is what we've done. And so in the end, we were very much able to connect back kind of from those key business outcomes to the role of the portal. But I will say that sort of the realizing of that value, it took time and we had to kind of do it in stages. But that's been our approach. And so none of these things are like wave a wand and woo, it's a miracle, it's done. It was a really terrific global team at HPE, of course, at the time, but also we had the benefit of a number of really outstanding vendors who we worked with as well, true partners. Of course, LifeRay being at the forefront of that, but also we worked very closely with Accenture, with Wirestone for the user experience design, and then also Extivia, which is one of the key North America SIs that really helped us not just take the platform, but really build it and customize it and get it ready for our business. It really was a global team. Including this nice diverse team across our vendors. And I should mention DXC as well, not to drag through all of our company history here, but DXC is now where our IT teams that worked on this project now sit. It's sort of a sister organization now. And you can see down here in the bottom right, we have a company award every year, our annual President's Quality Award. It's the highest award that's given at the company, and it's only given to 6 projects a year. And we did win the award from our CEO, Meg Whitman. That's her there with the fist pump. And so that was a really great moment to see and to know that all this effort that we put forth really delivered the value back for the company. So it was definitely a high note. And so there's a couple of key things I just wanted to make mention that, like I talked to a lot of customers and stuff about their portals, and some of the things that often come up that can either be the pitfall or can be a real success criteria. These have been some of the biggest success criteria for us that have really helped us continue to sustain the portal long term. And the first is around the data component. You know, it's really helpful to have all your core data that you need, whether it's to drive a targeted experience or it's to give transactional insights or what have you, to grant permissions. It's really helpful to have all that in one spot. So that's been a really helpful piece for us, is that all that information does sit in one major system that we're very easily able to integrate with using LifeRay. The focusing on the permissioning. And the permissioning is something we'll talk a little about with DXC, but it's been great to see as the LifeRay platform has evolved. You know, some of the stuff that we had to do fully custom in the past is now becoming a core part of the DXP platform, which is terrific and very helpful for us as we look at our migration plans. The administrator model, I don't know how many of you are leveraging channel partners that you're involved with, but we implemented as part of the portal the ability for we designate a partner portal administrator at each company, and they grant the rights for all the other employees at that company of what they're allowed to see. It takes some of the risk off of us and allows them to self-serve on who can see what, which has been great. Continual feedback, so we do a survey regular basis, we have listening posts, all of that's been very important. And you can see a visual here on how we have integrated a lot of those tiles with real-time data, so that rather than even having to punch into these tools, the partners can log in and see the key information most important to them right there on their homepage. So I'm going to pause for just a second before I run through this evolution, because I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the gloves. So I love these gloves, and while I do live in Houston, which means I get like 3 days a year that I get to wear them, on one of those said days, I was pulling into the office. We have, you have to badge in and to get the parking dealie to go up so you can pull in and park. And when I did that, I unfortunately dropped one of these gloves. And I didn't realize it, and I got home that night, and I'm like, where's my other glove? And so the next day, I was driving back, look for it, and I see as I'm pulling up to the gate, this flattened roadkill looking item, and I realize that's my glove, and it's probably been driven over about 100 times. And it was like, no, I love these gloves. I can't replace them. They're at Harrods. It's really far. And I pull it up, and I look at it, and I'm like, remarkable. And even now, if I showed them to you, I would pass, but I know it will take a while. You probably can't tell which one got driven over 100 times. And doesn't that speak to the quality? I'm just saying, Harrods should be paying me for all this promo I'm doing. But my point with it is that LifeRay could have been our HPE roadkill with all that I will highlight here at a very high level for you on the paces that we have put it through, because we as a company have gone through a lot of big changes in the last 2 years, and it handled all of those changes and demands like you'd never know it. You'd never know it, which I think is really impressive, because for us, after we launched the portal, you may have heard that HP split into 2 companies. Hewlett Packard Enterprise is more the B2B side, and HP Inc., which is more of PC printers. Well, when we did that, new brand, 2 new sites, cloned LifeRay, separate portal, different theme and branding, off to the races. And then after that, on the HPE side, we acquired a whole bunch of companies, and we split off our software group and our services group. And so as a result, we had to add on, remove all of these changes within just about a year's pace. No problems whatsoever. In fact, I don't think I've mentioned, our uptime with the platform is at 99.98% since really the launching of the site. And we've done a lot of work on the performance as well to keep all of the pages, even our homepage, which our homepage has 500 data calls that occur before the page even loads. They're all well below 3 seconds average, and that's measured globally off network. So really, really terrific performance. And even though we tried to run over it about 100 times through the course of all these changes, it has just taken a licking and kept on ticking. So very, very pleased with how robust the platform has been to support our business. So mobile. How many of you, can I get a show of hands, have mobile as part of your kind of digital transformation that you're looking at your company or factoring in? Okay, so pretty good percentage. So, and I suppose I should be saying mobile while I'm here, and vitamins and schedule, which I love because I never get to say that at home. So when I think about mobile, we did do a responsive design approach when we launched the portal. But the unfortunate reality is, with a login, how many people really go onto their mobile, go to the browser, enter in the credential? It just wasn't very practical for them, and it was everything that was in the portal. It was too much. So we've shifted our approach for mobile. And we are now creating, using LifeRay headless, basically using all the data, all the permissioning, all the good stuff on the back end to drive a very targeted mobile app experience. And using Cordova as the UI layer, but it's very task specific. Spent a lot of time with our partners to understand what are those tasks that they want to be able to do with us and need to do mobily. And I have to tell you, B2B mobile adoption is not as easy as I thought it would be. Because you have these tricky little things that catch you like, oh, well, our company doesn't allow employees to have company data on their personal phone. Oh. Or my job role doesn't really ever require me to work outside of core business hours and I'm at my PC. Okay. And so that has made it all the more important to really target specific tasks that we know they're going to want to do. And so we've launched HPE Go, our mobile app, and to begin with, something very simple we started with, order status checking. I want to be able to look up the status of my order as a partner for my customer, and I want to see the status, get alerts if it changes, which it does at times, when the delivery is going to occur, and I want to be able to share that with my customers. And while this may, in the world of Amazon, be like, wah, wah, I have to tell you, as we go and talk to partners, how often in the B2B space can you look up an order for something at work, a custom $1 million order, on your phone? It's actually fairly industry leading to be able to provide this. So we have sort of pivoted our mobile approach, very targeted, very task-based, and again, leveraging LifeRay for all of the back end and then using Cordova on the front end. So that has worked out very well for us. And then finally now, our big focus is around DXP and how we look to upgrade and go through that transformation. Because we're on 6.1, it's going to be a bigger stretch for us to go to DXP. But we do see a lot of clear benefits to transitioning. Like I mentioned, we can get quite a bit of the custom stuff we have off the table and move to stuff that's more standard. And then from a mobile perspective, it's very, very well aligned for supporting our business. We're working on our business case right now for the upgrade because it will take us about 9 months. It's a good bit of work. But we've been working very closely with the LifeRay team. And I have to say, it's been great, the partnership on the roadmap, giving the feedback as a customer around the things that are important to us, the gaps, the opportunities, and seeing how well that has been received, and then in many cases even integrated into the roadmap, which is really, really well appreciated. So yeah, in closing, I would just say that I'm not somebody to throw away a compliment. You can ask any of the folks on my team for sure, but at the same time, I recognize a really good thing when I see it. And having been down this journey and knowing the risk to our business and also the opportunity that it's brought to grow our business, how well suited LifeRay has been for us. And I'm so glad we made that choice. They have been a terrific partner. Their ecosystem of partners that have helped work with us as well have been just outstanding. So yeah, we have definitely found that this platform for HPE and for our business fits us like a glove. So that has been very good. And I wanted to say, if any of you have questions or feedback as well, your experiences, would certainly love to hear those. We'll be here today. But also I want to take a moment and introduce my colleague, Pierre Monsieur, who's here. He is the technical lead. I'm more of the business lead, and he is the technical lead for our partner portal. And he can certainly, if some of you have any specific questions or feedback from more of a technical nature, can help you. He's the genius behind the operation here. So delighted that he's here as well. So hey, thanks you all for the time today. A big thank you to LifeRay as well, and I hope you have a great rest of your conference.